Hello, Formula One fans. It is that time again. Welcome to Fans Forum, the show where we put you guys in pole position, driving the conversation as we look to review all the action from the Las Vegas Grand Prix, where the 20 best drivers in the world hit the strip. And it was Max Verstappen that took the jackpot whilst McLaren went bust. And we are going to be delving into all of that and more with my VIP guest. But as you know, as always, we are nothing without you guys as well. And that's why we're here. It's a forum. So it's great to see the ever presence in the shape of Gary and Ewan in the chat box once again. Ewan just giving us a great bit of knowledge immediately, saying 50-year anniversary that Graham Hill was killed. And that's why we love you guys in the chat box as well, because you're pure motorsport fans. And we want to open this up as a family, guys. And not just to you, also to my VIP guest and co-host today who's joining us. He's been very gracious in giving up his time. It is the man himself, motorsport journalist Damian Hall. Damian, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Thanks for having me, man.
So listen, bud, I know that you're making waves in your career. I keep my eye on your socials. We are, of course, both a part of the Driven by Us family, ensuring that motorsport becomes a more diverse and inclusive place. But for anybody watching this, and perhaps Gary and Ewan who are in the chat box, if they don't know about you, tell us a little bit about how your motorsport passion began and where it led to on your journey.
Ah, as long as I can remember, I've always loved motorsport. We grew up on small island of Barbados, and it's pretty much a motorsport island. From very little, I got exposed to motorsport. We're very big on rally, but we're into all motorsports. Obviously, coming from a small island, we don't have the access that other people would have in the other countries. Rallying is the main thing. So in order to get that kind of access to these other sports, we had to look online. So I got into sim racing. Competed at a fairly high level. Competed in the Logitech, 2 seasons in the Logitech G Challenge. I did Oscaro a couple of seasons. Yeah, but I wanted more, obviously. I know being a driver would have been out of reach. So look for other avenues in. I always love media. So I did photography, videography, did a broadcasting course in Barbados. And I just started to look at different ways that I could get into motorsport, get closer to motorsport. And that's when I started reaching out to media houses and stuff. And I was by chance introduced to the sports editor at the Voice newspaper, and I pitched an idea that they liked. They gave me a trial run in Miami, and this was in 2003 or yeah, I think 2003. I basically knocked it out of the park, and ever since then, I was their F1 correspondent, and then it expanded into being their motorsport correspondent. So that's pretty much where I am now. Yeah.
That's crazy. And of course, a pivotal time. If you're talking then pitching this back in 2003, at that time, there
Yeah.
must have been bubbles about a certain young man called Lewis Hamilton. What was that doing perhaps at the time? And particularly even for the Voice newspaper, because we know what Lewis has
Mhm.
done for the sport, right? But when you first were involved with the Voice, was there that much of an appetite for it? And how did you find the reception for yourself as a journalist going into these spaces?
Ooh, that's a good question. They're all at the Voice. They're always champion people of color, right?
Mm,
So he'll always be relevant, no matter what's going on. Um, so, and at the time, they didn't have a very strong presence within Formula One. They didn't have anybody
mm,
actively covering Formula One, so that was it, an easy one for me. In terms of reception for me, I can't say that I've had any issues.
mm,
The obvious thing would be that going into those spaces, and I must say that growing up in Barbados, right, we're used to seeing people of color in all different positions in the
mm,
leadership roles, right? So it's not new for me to see people of color in these roles. But traveling outside of Barbados, then going into these spaces and not seeing many people looking like me is kind of is an easy feeling. Like
Mm,
it's easy to feel like you don't belong,
yeah.
but I can't say that I have had a bad reception because there have been people who obviously would help me along the way.
Mm,
And so it was I can't say it was a bad reception, but it's just the feeling that you get being in some of these spaces, not seeing people who look like you. It
mm.
naturally just makes you feel like you don't belong. But that's about it. But it's been a great experience.
Of course, that is changing year on year, particularly with great
Yeah.
organizations like Driven by Us. Correct me if I'm wrong. Has Lewis Hamilton got Bayesian heritage? Or it's definitely from
No,
one of the it's from definitely from one of the smaller islands that, or is it Grenada as
Grenada.
well?
Grenada
Right.
is Grenada, but he's been to Barbados before many
Okay.
times.
And as that, give us a finger on the pulse. Has that also, are the people very receptive to him and champion him there?
Of course, yeah, yeah, for sure.
That is absolutely great to hear. Now, we talked a little bit off air here, dude, but I want everyone as well to know how serious a motorsport fan you are. What session did you watch the Vegas Grand Prix this weekend today? And I'm going to ask everyone one in the chat as well. So, are you hardcore number one F1 fan, 4 a.m.? Are you softcore kind of 8 a.m., which was the first replay? Or you, like me, I'm going to put my hands up and say I got a good night's sleep, and then I watched the broadcast from 11:30.
So actually, I probably would have been up 2 hours before the actual F1 broadcast because I usually watch the support races and then I watch the lead up to the
Yeah.
because I watch it on F1 TV Pro, right?
Mm.
So I actually watch the lead up to the race and then I watch the race. So I don't watch replays. I watch everything like no matter what time it is. If I'm not at the track, if I'm not fortunate enough to go to the track, I have to watch it like
Look at that. I mean, God, that shows me I've got some work to do. So you are hardcore. You basically did an all-nighter.
yeah, yeah.
And Ewan backing you as well in the chat box as well, saying, yeah, he also did an all-nighter. Great work, Ewan. And Gary, you beat me by one, Gaz. He watched the first replay, so the 8 a.m. And then who have we got? Eddie as well, saying we get up at 5, 6 a.m. on the West Coast every weekend, so it was about time. That's my buddy who's on Newport Beach there. So he was glad for this one where he could watch it at a reasonable time. And of course, it was a Saturday night race for the benefit of us
Mhm.
here in Europe. So let's get into what actually went down, Damien, as a part of this weekend, because it really was as exciting as a bender for a weekend in Vegas, wasn't it? By the end of it, you know, it literally had everything. And we got to talk first and foremost about the four-time world champion who is making a late dash for the world championship, Max Verstappen. So I've got to ask you first and foremost, now looking at the championship table and there's only, what is it, 24 points in it?
24. Yeah.
How are you feeling about Max Verstappen's chances now, Damien? And has that drastically changed after this previous weekend?
I I believe he has a good chance to take it. No, especially no with the double DNF because it's like I think last year and the year before he was good there.
Mm.
Um Piastri was actually better than Norris as well. And Norris leading, it doesn't look good then. So I don't know, just by 24 points, it looks like Max has a better chance now.
I've got Gary in the chat box already saying, yeah, thanks to the FIA, it's been opened up. I've seen some interesting memes on the internet as well. There's one by Brendan Blake, who was on the show earlier in the season, and he goes in and he goes, Mr. Massey, I mean, race director. So, of course, you've got all the whispers going on. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today saying, as John Elkann put a call in to try and help Ferrari a little bit as well because of the catastrophe of this weekend. So it's all been going on. We will get into the disqualification, but of course Max has got a fantastic opportunity now. And let's talk about that turn one incident, which really opened up the race for Max. Do you put it more at fantastic driving from an experienced champion, or is it more to do with the naivety of Lando Norris, perhaps?
It was definitely it was definitely a mistake on Norris's part of breaking himself. But obviously, I mean, he had to know that he had to defend the inside.
Mm,
And to my mind, if you're going to do that, it starts with your lineup, how you line up the car on the grid. But when he lined up, it didn't look like he was prepared to defend. I don't know if he thought he would have had a good enough launch or what, but
mm.
it did not look like he had the correct posture to defend the inside. So it just looked like something reactive. And then by the time he got there, then it was too late. He had to brake late because if he just got there and went on it, would have caused a collision and can't risk that. So it was just a mistake by Norris. Simple as that. It's just a mistake.
Yeah, Gary's saying as well there. Yeah, Lando pushed hard and Max put him under a lot of pressure, but perhaps I don't know. How did you see it, Damien, in a sense of is there any way Lando could have got out of going deep on that corner, or do you think it was the aggressive defense that meant he carried too much momentum in? Full stop.
Um, the aggressive defense was needed,
Mm,
basically, but I think it was just that he got there too late because, like I said, he wasn't lined up to defend in the first place. Normally, when you see somebody get it, you could even hear the commentators when they know somebody's getting ready to defend
yeah,
because of the posture, the position that they take up in the
yeah. They
grid
usually
box.
angle it inwards, don't they? Like
Exactly,
so.
exactly. But he was straight. So it was on him. He got there late and he braked late as well. So it was all on him. Just a mistake.
Ewan making a great point that it's actually in Max's hands now as well. If he wins the sprint race and the last two Grand Prix, doesn't matter what the two McLaren boys do, Max can lift his fifth world title. For you,
Yep.
Damien, how much will that play on the McLaren boys' mind? And does it give Max any kind of advantage, do you think?
What you mean the disqualification?
No, no, no. I mean the idea that they know that Max can win by just winning races. It isn't now
Oh,
that he's going to need a disqualification or anything. It's in his
yeah.
hands, and he is possibly the best driver on the grid.
I would imagine they're panic at this point in time. I could imagine because he's strong in these last two races. So ah, yeah, they'll have to be panic.
Right.
If I were in their shoes, I'll be panic for
So,
sure.
so talk to me then, Damien. If you were a bookie and you had to give some odds now, who would be your favourite? Who would be number two? And who do you think is the outsider now for the Drivers' Championship?
Whew. I would actually put Max to win.
Wow. So
Um,
Max is your favorite now, even though Lando's got a 24-point gap.
yeah, because I mean, well, I mean, yeah, I can't help but feel like Max could get it right now.
Okay.
I can't help that.
And Max is on
Um,
the exact same points as Oscar
as
Piastri.
Piastri, exactly. Hmm.
And who do you put as your outsider now then? Is it Piastri?
Yeah, Piastri would have to be, so then, but I mean, he was stronger than Lando in these last rounds, right?
Yeah,
Um,
we're going to get into Piastri and talk a little bit about the luck that really hasn't been on his side. But Gary,
mm,
very much backing you in a sense that Oscar is possibly the outsider now. And we know if there's one man that can deal with pressure, it is Mr. Max
Max.
Verstappen. Yeah,
Hmm.
when you need to perform, he really does do it. We're going to get into the McLaren boys in a sec. Just really quick on the other side of the garage, Red Bull, Yuki Tsunoda back to back Q19 performances. So qualifying 19th back to back. I mean, where do you see Yuki's future? For me, I was thinking, God, has he already been told secretly?
I was wondering too, but you never know.
Mm.
So that's up in the air. I don't know what it's saying that because that's really up in the air, really up in the air.
How do you assess Yuki's performance across the season? only 6 points finishes in the Red Bull, considering that they sacked a Sergio Perez who managed 16 points finishes and I think it was 4 podiums. And Yuki fundamentally is the man that's been brought in to replace him after Liam Lawson.
Mm. I mean, it's kind of difficult because he's basically in the same position that every other second driver has been in.
Mm.
So it would be unfair to just beat on Yuki. He's just in the same position that all the others have been in, and it's kind of the general consensus that the car is just difficult to drive, and the only person who can drive it is Max.
Mm.
So it's unfortunate for every second driver.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that on the screen there, Gary, just saying that he feels that from these couple of performances, Yuki knows that his time is over. For
Mm.
you, Damian, is this the last we'll see of Yuki Tsunoda in Formula One, do you think? Or could there be a new pathway, particularly, I don't know, with the Honda partnership that he has?
Ooh. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know because I don't like to speculate a lot. So I don't know.
Okay. And you, I like this. Ewan's just put in, we all know his thoughts on Red Bull and Sergio Perez. So we're just going to give him a shout out. Red Bull karma is what he likes to say to us every week. But yeah, Red Bull have got their karma for the way that they've treated Sergio Perez. And of course, it's going to be very interesting to see the experienced Mexican coming back to F1 next year with Cadillac. We don't know how they'll
Mhm.
be out the box, but I'm sure they will benefit from the skill that is Sergio Perez and, of course, Valtteri Bottas in the second seat
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Now, Damien, I usually do a run through of the show on order and classification, but we have to talk about the big double disqualification with the McLaren boys. So both cars failing to meet the regulation thickness of the plank underneath the car. I think it was by 0.12 millimeters and 0.16 millimeters or something, but the rules are the rules.
Yeah.
Does this open up a bigger question, though, perhaps about McLaren's ride height throughout the season? Come on, I've got to create some scandal.
I mean, I mean, anything at this point, anything would create doubt, right?
Yeah.
As to whether they were legal all along or whatever. But you don't have the proof. So
Hmm.
there's that. So, but yeah, it's unfortunate. Unfortunate.
Yeah, Gary making a valid point as well that there was quite a few sparks. You're right, Gaz, underneath the McLaren. I remember
Mhm.
Oscar Piastri specifically pulling out at one point. And in their defense, Andrea Stella came back and he said that because of the lack of running in the dry during free practice, that was why perhaps they broke the regulation in his apology to fans. And so for you, Damien, is it somewhat understandable with that reasoning given?
It is understandable for sure. And yeah, it is understandable. It is definitely understandable because they had a limited running and but again, that is so unfortunate because again they were the only teams and
Mm.
everybody had limited running. So I don't know.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
you were making a good point though as well about the flexi wings when they had some scrutineering on that as well. So yeah, you never know, but we don't know. So all we can do is
yeah.
speculate, right?
Mhm.
And even the point you made there, Damien, and just talking about the ride height, people have been attacking Ferrari for quite a lot of the season because they've struggled with theirs to stay
Mhm.
within the regulations. And now we are seeing it with what was the leading team. But let's go back to the individual driver's performance. Lando Norris, very
Mhm.
solid weekend until this, perhaps apart from that turn one incident.
Mhm.
How'd you rate his weekend overall? That's his third pole position in a row. It seems like Lando generally has got it together mentally, but do you think there could be a wobble now?
Not necessarily. It's um I mean a result like this would rattle anyone, right? Um, but I think he has shown that he has improved mentally, and we would just hope that this doesn't affect it and it carries on because he would still have the momentum. It's just unfortunate that they were disqualified, but if he has improved mentally, then there's no reason why the performance shouldn't continue.
Yeah. Look at Gary making jokes, just saying that they'll be running on
You
tractor
see?
tires to make sure for the last two races. Well, not even that,
Yeah,
Gaz. They could just use wet weather tires, really. That surely would slow them down enough and give them a little bit of degradation across the race. Um, we've got Harry in as well, just saying it'd be great scenes if Max won the world championship. And hello, H. Hope you had a great weekend, my man. Back to Lando Norris real quick. We know that there's a new set of regulations next year, Damien. How much do you think will be playing on not just his mind, but Oscar Piastri's as well? This could be their only
last
opportunity
time.
at a
Yeah,
drivers'
I was saying
championship,
that.
couldn't it? Is this another
Yeah,
way in which, for the mind games, there's going to be a lot more weight on those two than a Max in the Red Bull who's already got four in his pocket?
yeah, you make a good point. Actually, yeah, because it could be the last opportunity that they have to safely get that world championship. So, yeah, it would affect them. Yeah.
And on the other side of the garage, Oscar Piastri, we know it's been a difficult time for him. You made a very valid point, though, that Oscar's been performing quite well across the last couple of weekends. It's just been Lady Luck that's not been on his side, right?
Mm-hmm.
For next season, I'm assuming they're both going to be at McLaren still, right? We know they're contracted, but you never know what could happen. But it feels like, because we've been talking so long all season about, oh my God, next year there's going to be one champion and there'll be a definite number two driver. What does it mean for next season in that camp? Is it a system reset again and we continue with these papaya rules?
Ah, I mean, they're set on this idea that they don't want a number one driver, right? And I somewhat agree with them. And at the end of the day, it is a team sport and team should come first, right?
Mm,
So they should do whatever it takes to make sure that the team is the constructors championship is secured first.
mm.
Once that's over the way, then anything else can happen. And it would be unfair to support one over the other, right? But I mean, if they have they double down on it basically. So they said that that's where they stand on it. So I don't see why it should change next season.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the group as well and ask the people what they think. Because is this scenario we are currently having not the perfect example of why you do need a number one? And actually, let me ask you, Damien, you mentioned about the constructors, and that's the most important thing. How much weight for
Mhm.
you as a fan and a professional in the industry does the Drivers' Championship actually have then?
It's always second. It should always be second to the constructors championship because at the end of the day, it's a team sport. So it's a team first. So the drivers champion is just second to the constructors. So it doesn't carry as much weight at all. Because everything else basically depends on where you finish, where the team finishes, not the driver. It doesn't benefit the entire team where the driver finishes. What benefits the entire team is the constructors. So that's what should carry the most weight.
Interesting. So it looks like Gary's saying that they should, and it should be done on the championship result this season. So whoever finishes with the most points this season, I think Gary's leaning towards the Brits in the cockpit there. Ewan also saying, yeah, they do need a number one driver. Let us know your thoughts, guys. Gary, Ewan, anybody else out there? Do you agree with Damien? Is it always constructors first and drivers second? And do you think all drivers will be on board for that, and particularly these drivers, Damien?
You mean constructors first?
Yeah, because they've now delivered it two seasons in a row. So don't they, as individuals, at some point go, Well, hang on. We've done that for you now 2 years. I'm sure their managers are going to be speaking independently and saying, "You got to back my guy."
Yeah, but then it's not fair to the other person because everybody wants to be a champion, but you want to do it on your. You also, if you are a proper champion, you want to do it on your own merit. You don't
Mm,
want that extra help. So, and at the end of the team pays the drivers. They're working for the team. So I don't see why. Well, not that I don't see why, because I mean there are a lot of huge egos in sport. But
mm,
if you're going to say that this is the pinnacle of motorsport, you should say that these drivers are the most disciplined. And if you have
mm.
discipline, then that is the direction you should be going in. It's the person who employs you first. Anything else should come after. That's
Yep.
just the way how I see it.
The boys in the chat box are backing you, mate. So Gary and Ewan, yep, both saying. So Gary, team first. That's the kudos and the money. Ewan, yep, constructors first. Before I move it on from McLaren real quick, Damien, final question. So Lando Norris is obviously slightly older, and we've seen him flourish, and it feels like he's almost, I don't know, could we say he's peaking in performance? How much more is there to come from Oscar Piastri in only his third season? Who is the better long-term bet for you, perhaps, in the McLaren camp?
I feel like Oscar would be because it's only his third season and he does seem to be very composed. It's just like you say, it's just the luck, the bad luck. No, run a bad luck, but to me, he could be the more complete driver to me.
Okay, interesting. All right, we will wait and see. And of course, if it doesn't end up like that, I'll clip that and throw that out on the internet so we can say how wrong you were. So I've got you there, buddy. But listen, let's push it forwards and we'll talk about the Silver Arrows Mercedes, who by default, because of the double disqualification of McLaren, saw themselves with a double podium. George Russell battling with a steering issue for much of the weekend. And what a
Yeah,
brilliant race, not only from the young man Kimi Antonelli, but the team and the strategy behind his race as well. What did you make of Mercedes this weekend?
yeah, brilliant. They've always been good on strategy,
Mm,
so that was a big surprise.
mm.
Um, I know of recent, like the second half of the season, I've been saying that Antonelli is really coming into his own, and I was very pleased with his performance. As the honest truth, it really surprised me the last stint to pull away from Piastri. So
Yeah.
it was really impressive. Yeah, really impressive.
Yeah, I saw some analysis actually. I think McLaren were aware of their plank issue, or there was the commentary were talking about whether they were running low on fuel, but Oscar was lifting and coasting pretty early in that race as well.
It was it was both of them, and if I remember correctly, they were being told about turns 5, 11, turns 11, 5, 11. I know for sure 17 was one,
Mm,
but I remember hearing on the radio because I usually watch the race like because I use F1 TV Pro, so I
yeah.
have multiple screens open and I listen to the team radio, and then I have to go back and watch the race a couple of times sometimes to
Like an engineer,
pinpoint.
telemetry all over the screen.
Yeah. So afterwards, I went back because I was listening first for Lando, and I remember because I noticed him lifting in the middle of turn 17, right? A
Mm,
lot. And I remember afterward, and after I first heard about the disqualification, then I went back to listen to Piastri's radio, and I realized that Lando had the most radio chatter, and they were always telling him, well, it isn't working because he was complaining about the field the car as well by 10. And they were telling him from the telemetry, what he did didn't make a difference at 10. But
right.
they could see the obvious change in 17 and another turn. And we'll have to go back and check my notes. But in any case, he had less wear on his plank. than Piastri. So I went back to check Piastri's radio, and he wasn't having as much radio chatter. But I remember him asking on the radio if they still require him to lift at 17, right?
Right.
And he said yes, for sure, 17, and it would make perfect sense because of the high speed turn
Yep.
to the left, so everything is going to the right, right? And but they told him 17 for sure, and then if he wanted to, at 5, right? And I went back to see if he was actually doing it. And a lot of the times Piastri wasn't actually lifting in 17. And
Yeah.
that would explain why he has more wear than Lando. But it definitely seems as though they obviously were aware of the issue.
Yeah, there's always that
For sure.
balance between engineering caution and race driver wants and motivations on the circuit, isn't there?
Yeah.
I just want
And
to pull
no,
it
no,
back.
you said that. Oh,
Huh?
sorry. No, no, that you said that. And the reason probably why Piastri, because of the position that Piastri was in as well, he wasn't
Yeah.
in a position to lift as much as Lando as well, because
Yeah.
Lando
Yeah.
was further ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Max was off down the road,
Piastri
but
was nearby.
Piastri had
Mhm.
Leclerc and Antonelli in front of him and would
Yeah.
have been looking to track those down. I've just thrown in the chat box just asking, I want to put it back to the Silver Arrows. George Russell, fantastic season, only race winner outside of the McLaren boys and Max. The other great stats I saw for him this race weekend, he's only finished outside of the points once this season in Grand Prix and only qualified outside the top 6 once as well. Next season, system reset. There's big whispers about the Mercedes power unit. Where could George Russell be next season in a Mercedes for you?
Hunting a championship, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you think
yeah.
it's his
I
time?
really feel like that. Yeah, I really feel like that for real.
Yeah, Gary's
But
back
you
in
never
that.
know. So
Yeah, we don't. No one's got a crystal ball, but we're just talking off of what we've seen so far, and he's really come into his own, hasn't he, George Russell? Really gallantly stepped out of the shadow of Lewis Hamilton, which is no small feat, is it?
yeah. I
And
think
Kimi Antonelli, the young man alongside him as well.
yeah, definitely will be a track next year. I feel he will be a track next year.
Yeah. So you said, do you mean that as a fan of somebody else, or is that just saying just a general opinion?
No,
When you
this is
use
just a
the word
general
threat,
opinion.
you use the
Just
word
a
threat
general
though. So threat to who?
to everybody, to
Okay,
everybody.
fair enough. um,
Mm.
Kimi Antonelli, as well, as I said, great race strategy, brilliant drive from him. There's been really nice release of him and Bono's back and forth at the end of the race as well. Seems to have really put a difficult spell behind him to bounce back, hasn't he, for the second half of the season? Did you have any
Yeah.
doubts about his talents at any point?
Um, honestly, early on, I kind of doubted it, but then I realized like um he's jumping straight into a top team,
Mm.
right? There's pressure with that, and obviously he is his first season, right? So I mean, you gotta give him a little grace. These things is so it's expected. The mistakes I was making is expected, but initially, like it was just a hint of doubt. But I mean, ah, is what it is. Is what it is.
You think Toto is going to be very happy at the end of the season with both his drivers?
He should be, especially after the mid-season drag up that they probably give Antonelli. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and they are now, is it 40 points? Yeah, 40 points ahead of Red Bull, who are in third in the constructors. So Mercedes pretty much have got one hand on that P2 spot in the
yeah,
constructors. So they'll be really pleased about that because they was P4 last year, wasn't it? They finished. They took a real slump. So they are bouncing back. And as we said, system reset next year could be leading to good things once again for the Silver Arrows. And let's talk about Scuderia Ferrari now. It's another difficult race weekend. And it feels that the gremlins into teams seem to be returning, right? When Fred Vasseur came in, it felt like the machinery was there and they needed some guidance with regards to processes and logistical arrangements and all of that stuff. It now feels like they've gone back to making those mistakes again. Do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels that way for sure. I remember in Silverstone, I got a chance to ask Lewis if serving with Hamilton, if he had a chance or if he spoke to the team about leaning more on his experience and his instinct, right? Because I think something happened in the previous race where he said that he wasn't ready to pick, that he felt like he could go along with. And they also had him on the same strategy as Leclerc, and it didn't work out well at all. I remember he was saying that he was going through a lot with the rookie team. And one of the things that he wanted, and this is like the only thing that I had seen change for sure, is that what did he say? He said he didn't want to be ever on the same strategy as Leclerc.
Yeah.
And since then, he was never on the same strategy. That was like the only thing. But then the communication still isn't fully there during the race. Like a lot of stuff they don't tell him. Well, the information doesn't come timely enough for him to make a proper decision, and the strategies are all over the place at times. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? And I just want to play devil's advocate, though. Saying what you said earlier, the fact that the drivers are employed by the team and they need to do what the team requires. Now, we know there was a lot of whisperings that Lewis put together quite a standard, I don't know whether you want to call it report or dossier during the summer
Mm,
break.
yeah.
What are the team going to make of that? Do you feel that there's any noses perhaps that could have been put out of joint and maybe he's upset the apple cart in doing that in some shape or form? I'm just asking. Like,
I mean, we never really know what's going on inside of
hmm.
these camps.
But should a driver be doing that? The fact that you said earlier, oh well, drivers are supposed to
Right.
drive the team and do what they're told.
Because no. I didn't say that they should. There's the thing, right? There's the thing. They brought in a 7-time world champion,
Mm,
right? They brought him for a reason.
mm,
And if you have somebody with that much experience, you should lean on it, right? I don't see in a perfect world, I don't see why that should be an issue. This person with so much experience
mm.
giving you advice on how to get this thing right, right?
Yeah.
I don't see it being a problem, but is obviously it could be a problem, right?
Mm.
Not based on, but depending on the culture in the place, right? So it's not it's not far fetched to think that people were offended by him bringing something, but I don't see why it should be a problem. But I think he did say that there weren't any problems inside of the camp where that type of thing is concerned. And it's just people speculating. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if he would say if there was a problem or not, but you can
Yeah.
only go by what the man say, right?
Yeah, buddy. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I've spent a lot of this year saying that, Lewis is the best consultant money can buy because he's been at teams where they've done it and won. But, Ewan's making a great point on the screen that unfortunately Lewis is now collecting a lot of the records that you do not want
Mm,
at Ferrari and ones that he doesn't really want to be blighting his what has been an absolutely fantastic career. And Gary's just saying as well that no one person is bigger than the team, but talking previously, utilize the knowledge and the experience that Lewis Hamilton does bring to that team. Let's use what happened last weekend. John Elkann coming out and saying that the drivers talk too much and the team is of championship standard. I imagine he's not going to say anything this weekend, but privately, what would be his reflection on the performance of everyone this weekend?
To be honest, they performed well. All things considered, because I think the reason why Lewis was at the back was again a communication issue. And he still finished eighth of starting at the back, and Leclerc finished fourth now, right? So it's still a good performance from the team, really and truly.
Yeah, what I'm leaning to more than anything is that last week he defended the team over the drivers. But do we think, looking at it, I mean, as you mentioned, the communication to Lewis on his last flying lap that he should have kept pushing, and then also, I mean, I searched the internet for about 20 minutes when I saw the classification because I couldn't understand how Kimi Antonelli was on the podium when he had a 5-second penalty. What were they saying to Charles Leclerc in the last few laps? All he needed to do was keep a 4.9 buffer, and he's got a podium. But what are they?
That's the thing. That's the thing that wasn't from what I saw, because I went back and listened to the radio as well. And poor me, I couldn't understand exactly what Leclerc was saying with about 2 more laps to go, I think it was. But I remember hearing him come over the radio, and it had sounded like it. Well, no, don't let me say what it had sounded like. But he came over the radio, right? And just then, it was after I think he had fallen back from Piastri like 2 seconds. So I don't think it was anything that they could possibly do, because Antonelli was stretching out on Piastri, dropping him, and Piastri was doing the same to Leclerc. Right. So I don't think it was anything that they could do. Any kind of communication can help them there. That was just them being beaten. So,
but we know it's been a difficult
hold on. We know it's hold on.
It's been a difficult season, hasn't it, for Scuderia Ferrari? Just before I move it on, I've seen an article saying that Lewis is apparently not looking forward to 2026 as a quote. Have you seen any of that stuff? And do you think there's any substance in it? And that couldn't possibly be true, could it?
I haven't seen it, so I can't.
Right. Yeah. Eddie just saying there as well, he feels that the egos have taken over at Ferrari, and that he can see them still struggling next season unless they sort that issue out. Our guest on last week, actually, George, he said, until they change this idea that this is how we're going to win and this is how we do things, and possibly need to be a little bit more open-minded, then they're not going to return to the top of the World Championship.
Well, I got to try something different.
Yeah, Gary's saying as well that he's seen that the people saying that Lewis might not be there next season. I mean, again, we don't know anything. We can only speculate. And, we thought he was signed into Mercedes for 2 years, didn't we? But then all of a sudden a huge announcement was made. So, nothing is sure. All a contract actually means is it will cost more money before they can move. But they're not worth the weight of the paper that they're written on, to a certain extent. Right, we'll push it forward, bud, because we've got about 15 minutes left, and I want to get a bit of coverage on the other team. So first up, Williams. Carlos Sainz with a fantastic qualifying in third position, and Matt finished P5. Just want to get your thoughts. Would he say that was good points for him, or would he be slightly disappointed that he lost a couple of places, or is it that he's battling a team and a few teams around him that he just can't compete with?
Yeah, because I think they're boxing outside their class, really. So that's really good for Williams. Extremely good for Williams.
Yeah, I mean, he did say, didn't he, that don't expect top fives and podiums, and he's already delivered this season, Carlos Sainz. And again, a bit like Piastri, there's been some bad luck, and he probably would have had an even more fruitful season if it wasn't for that bad luck. Alex Albon seems to be on maybe a little dip of form, we could perhaps say. More recently, I know he didn't have a good race weekend and misjudged that overtake with Lewis as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then served his penalty so that he wouldn't get it for the next race. But yeah, no points in 6 races now for Alex Albon. But perhaps as well, the story at Williams, it could be that, you know, all eyes are now turning to their 2026 car as well.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. But I think they've got great leadership, so that's a plus. That's a plus.
Yeah, what do you think of them for 2026? Again, they'll be powered by Mercedes, won't they? So it looks like they're going to secure P5 unless Racing Bulls really pull something out the bag. They've got a 31-point buffer. Are they over exceeding expectation for you this season, Williams?
Yeah, they're doing really well, surprisingly well, and it's good. It's actually good to see. Actually, great to see.
And do you think some of the big teams will be keeping an eye on either their drivers or their team boss?
The team boss for sure. Because I think as soon as he went, everything started to change. I like what he said about break everything. That's an open-minded mind right there. Yeah.
Do you think in the back of his head somewhere there might be a kind of aspiration to go back to a Mercedes perhaps one day? Because I know that there was already talks of him being an heir to Toto when he was there. But do you think, you know, he might like that holistic journey at some point in his career?
I don't know. I mean, it made sense to be where he is right now and build. So
yeah, and be a Toto in your own right, or be a James Vowles, right, and build something elsewhere, and perhaps then sell. Is it 5% of it for however many hundreds of millions, like Toto has just done, living his best life? Let me quickly ask you on that: is that any kind of, I don't know, just the first little nudgings towards Toto? You know, eventually he's going to have to hand over the reins, isn't he?
So eventually, everything comes to an end. But I don't know if it's a sign of anything.
Fair enough. All right, let's push it forwards. Talk about the Racing Bulls. Another successful Grand Prix weekend for Isaac Hadjar. Been a fantastic qualifier throughout the season, of course, from the opening race weekend, and now boasts 14 Q3 appearances in the 22 races so far. There's been no official announcement. For you, is the deal done? Is it the right move for the young man? Is it a right fit for the senior team?
Sure. I mean, anybody going to be a second to Max should be at this point scared, because it feels a lot like you see that drivers go to die. So
well, I got some are resurrected. Alex Albon's still around. Liam Lawson, Pierre Gasly.
Oh my gosh, that is I don't know, boy. I don't know. That's a tough one. I feel like he would be better at Red Bull, at Racing Bull. Sorry, at Racing Bull. So
is it too early? Do you think for the young man?
I feel like it, but I don't know.
If you was in his shoes, though, don't you have to take these opportunities when they come, because you're only as good as your last race, aren't you?
Yeah, but performance is better at Racing Bull. So I don't know why anybody would, knowing the situation at Red Bull, I don't know why anybody would want to rush to get to Red Bull. Maybe if the second seat had a better, if the second driver had better performances, then it would be more attractive to other people. But you continually hear that the car is undrivable for the second driver. So I don't know why anybody would want to rush to deal with that. I don't know.
Do
I
you
don't know
think
why anybody would rush that.
internally, though, they must know this, and the new car they are developing, surely they're bringing it back more center, so it's a more, for want of a better word, neutral car to drive, so that they can get performance out of two drivers. Do you think they would do that, or do you think that they will just keep with Max's driving style?
I think the sensible thing would be to bring it back.
Because
So
they're going to
that's
have,
what
it
I
looks like
think.
they're going to have 2 seasons of P3 in the constructors. And as you said earlier, that's the important thing.
They want
You
to win,
definitely said
so
that one.
but they want two drivers. So they would have to fix the issue so
Yeah.
that they have two drivers that can help them get back to the front.
Yeah. So who's your rookie of the year? We've got Ewan asking in the chat box, and Eddie's backing up and saying he thinks it's Kimmy, but Behrman is in with a shot. Are they being too quick to dismiss Isaac Hadja?
Probably, yeah.
Who for you?
Probably, yeah. Um, hmm, I won't say Hadja.
Mm.
Isaac Hadja. Yeah.
Is that looking at
And
the balance
and
of
it's
where
a
the
really
car is and where the expectation is?
go again?
Is that because of the balance, perhaps, of where the car's performance is and the expectation with that performance?
Yeah, exactly that. Because I mean, I would say Kimmy, but obviously he's in a way better car than the other
Mm,
rookies.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I would definitely go with Haja, and is a real touching story also because of where his season actually started
Mm,
with disaster, having to overcome that, and then yeah, so I would go with Haja for
yeah.
sure,
I loved as
for
well
sure.
the initial pictures of him standing next to Lewis Hamilton, and he was just like, he was like how all of us would be, right? And he's just there looking at him. And like you said, it's such, and this is what we love. We love the human stories he's got there to
Yeah,
battle alongside his idol, and then those beautiful pictures with him and Lewis Hamilton's dad when it
yeah.
started,
After the
you know,
crash,
yeah,
yeah.
so
Mhm.
terribly, and he's really come through that. So we salute the young man. Real quick on the other side of that garage, though, Liam Lawson, another strong qualifying Q3 for the third time, no, second time in a row. Um,
Mm.
was a bit over enthusiastic in turn one, though, and it kind of ruined his race. What does the future look like for Liam Lawson for you?
Oof. I don't like these questions because I don't know I don't know I don't like to guess a lot.
You don't like
So
to be on record as well because I've got it and keep it. I see you. Yeah, but I mean,
but
is there? I mean, do you think looking at? I mean, I think we looked at a young man who was pretty distraught after the demotion, and he seems to
mm,
have come through that. Can he take heart from the career that the likes of Albon and Gasly have had? And do you think he could also etch that kind of thing out for himself?
I mean it's possible, yeah. Yeah, I
Mm,
don't see why not.
great stuff. All right, we'll push it forward to Sauber. Obviously, just for the last season, they are Sauber before they turn into the Audi outfit. I just want to start by giving them props, really. There was only 1 points finish for them last season, and they amassed 4 points, right? With one Guang Yu Zhou performance that they got that. 68 points this season, all right? They've scored in 4 back-to-back races now. Uh, do they get team of the year? If we're talking about rookie of the year and expectation, where would they sit for team of the year with regards to what we all expected and what they've gone on to achieve?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because, yeah, they're ninth in the constructors, but only 5 points behind P7.
Hmm. is good, but uh I don't know. Um, nah, because like for me, Williams was always a struggling team. So for me, I would put Williams as that team that like surpass all expectations.
That's a fair
When it
shout, though,
comes
as
to
well, because Williams have gone from, was it P9 last year? Williams finished, I think.
Mhm,
Yeah, the P9 last, because they finished
mhm,
P7 in 23, and that was their best finish for about 8, 9 seasons. But then they dropped
mhm,
to last year, even though they had some really promising performances. But yeah, like I guess, yeah, now P5 outright to a certain extent. And then, of
mhm,
course, I guess the history of Williams, we all secretly want them to do well and return to the
mhm,
forefront, don't we? Hulk's been brilliant for them, had a very solid season, and his experience will go far. On the other side of the garage, Gabriel Bortoleto um, didn't have much time in an F1 car before he was thrust into it. Struggled at
yeah,
the beginning of the season, then hit a real purple patch, but he seems to be having a bit of a hangover at the moment. It felt like in Sao Paulo, he raced the occasion, right? Rather than actually racing. And then
yeah,
the turn one incident in this race, it seemed pretty mad what he attempted, didn't it?
yeah. Because because it was actually looking for him to kind of bounce back from what happened
Mm,
in Brazil. And I don't know if it was a case where he felt like he had something to prove,
mm.
but yeah, it was a little bit well for sure.
Yeah, you can't throw it up the inside from P18, unfortunately, can you? Because you've got a hell of a lot of cars that are going to
Hmm.
concertina up. And we saw, and I've really felt for Lance Stroll, actually. We'll talk about him in a bit, but Lance Stroll, if we're talking Lady Luck on his side, yeah, was really thrown a bad hand in Vegas. Before we get into Aston, though, real quick, the boys at Haas, a good performance from them again due to the W disqualification of McLaren. Double points for the team.
Oh yeah.
Esteban Ocon and Ollie Behrman, and Ollie Behrman as well is on a real purple patch and a good run of form now, isn't he? What could the
Mhm.
future hold for you for Ollie Behrman?
Oh, um, yeah. You know what? Like I haven't been paying as much attention as I should have been
Mm.
to him, but I believe he has a bright future ahead of him for sure. From what I've seen, but I haven't been paying as much attention to him as I should have been, to be
Yeah,
honest.
well, he's definitely demanding your attention now, buddy, with 5 points finishes in a row. And yeah, and you know what's interesting? He's got this ban that was hanging over him until Brazil. And then in
Yeah.
Brazil, I think he got more points. And now he's got a ban that will be hanging over him until May, Miami next year. So that is the
Mhm.
only worry. And Gary making a great point that he's building on confidence race after race. And I'm sure Gaz will be enjoying that as a fellow Brit and wanting to see him go far. Ferrari will be very much keeping their eye on it as well, won't they, Damien?
Yeah. 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 For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So then we'll be seeing, Lewis Hamilton can't go on forever. Be very interesting to see who ends up in that second seat. Or if Charles Leclerc decides at some point he has a better chance of winning a world championship elsewhere on the grid. Just two more teams to go, Damien. So first up, Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso with his best qualifying since the summer break, but the race didn't go to plan. But I want to spend some time talking about Lance Stroll, who takes a lot of stick, right? But
Hmm.
he was having a brilliant qualifying until they decide. Why did they decide to put the inters on? That says it all. I love it. Just capture that as a thumbnail. But why? If you're an Aston Martin team and your Q1 has already been well above expectation, would you not at least wait for a few other cars to come out to see if they're put the it's not Q3, it's only Q2. So you're only looking to get
Mhm.
through. like what kind of decision was that?
Everything is a gamble. So the gamble, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. So
Yeah, but what would be the thinking? Because again, as I said, it's Q2. So what gamble is there? There's only a gamble that it gets you through to the top 10. But looking at their Q1 performance, if they'd have
mm.
maintained that and everybody's staying on the wets, which they did, they would have probably both got through anyway. Sorry, I'm a bit irate. It makes it sound like I'm like Lance Stroll's #1 fan, right? It's not that, but I just really felt for him because
Mhm.
he was driving well.
Yeah, yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, and then obviously Bortoletto pummeled him at turn one, and that was the end of his race. Like, no, when you luck, oh mate, poor guy, his luck's down. Gary saying though, there's whispers of Christian Horner joining Aston Martin next year. Let's hit you with that one quick, Damien. Do you think we'll see Christian Horner back at some point? And if so, any ideas where, perhaps?
No, I wouldn't have an idea where at all.
you're you're like a lawyer. I couldn't possibly say. Oh man, brilliant. Okay, all right, last team. Let's jump it forwards to the last team. And again, just another driver it was a real shame for, really. Pierre Gasly with another
Mm,
fantastic performance in Vegas. Of all the 3 Vegas races, he's made it through to Q3 every time. And again, in turn 1 was flipped around and ended up at the back of the grid, which was a real shame.
yeah,
And
but that's racing. Sometimes that's just how it goes, unfortunately.
what do you think about Alpine next year, particularly with the fact that they got the Mercedes power unit? Do you expect them to pick up from which they're right at the bottom of the constructors, 42 points clear?
Yeah, I mean, if rumors are true about what Mercedes is going to be bringing,
Mm,
um, but then other teams also would have a Mercedes in the back of them as well.
mm.
But I mean, you just never know. You just never know.
And
So you
Franco
just have to wait and
Colapinto,
see.
what were your thoughts on him getting the contract for next year?
Oh, it was good for him. Good for him.
Good for him, and I'll need my lawyer to say any more. Oh,
I
brilliant,
mean,
buddy, brilliant.
it's always good. I'm always happy for these guys when they get their contracts renewed.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, listen, that's what we're all trying to do. We're all just out here trying to grab a contract to make some money, right? But listen, bud, it's been really good to catch up with you. And also just a big shout out. I saw your clip as well about your Barbados tour guide that's now on the British Airways. When you're
Oh
flying with
yeah,
BA.
British Airways and Iberia. Yeah, I have
Yeah, tell us a
because
little
I
bit
have
about
a
that real
drone.
quick.
Yeah, I have a drone company. Well, it started off as a drone company in Barbados, but a production it evolved into a production company now.
Hmm,
But you managed to on my way because I'm always between Barbados and UK,
hmm,
and on my way back home, usually I might be talking to somebody next to me or speaking to the air hostess or whoever, and somebody would always notice my accent and start to ask me a bunch of questions about the island, like where can they go and what it's like or whatever. And I was just thinking to myself that all of the content on board, mostly movies, like films and different
hmm,
stuff, is never any content about the destination that you're going to.
hmm.
And I figured that I have all these skill sets that I could actually produce something, some content for the airline, and they pitched the idea. And here we are. They said, well, first they wanted to see what it would look like, what an episode would look like.
Hmm.
So I decided to do an episode. And it's all drone footage, right? And it's narrated. So I did the first episode and showed them, and then they said that they wanted four more episodes. So I have 5 episodes for the series. And they placed it on British Airways and Iberia now. So Yeah.
Brilliant stuff, buddy. Well, just like Franco Colapinto, I'm very happy for you that you got that contract. And if anybody out there, so Gaz, Ewan, Eddie, all of you guys, if you're ever flying with British Airways or Iberian, make sure you check out Damian's tour guide of Barbados. But listen, buddy,
It's called from above. So, and I could
cool.
probably send a link to the first episode on YouTube for you as well.
Cool. Well, listen, bud, it's been a real pleasure to chew the fat with you and just talk about the action from Vegas. Thank you very much for giving up your time. I'm hoping that we get to bump into each other again real soon as part of the
Yeah,
Driven by
yeah.
Us family and continue that momentum as well. And I hope you've enjoyed yourself on the show and you're not going to find yourself with any legal matters coming through your post. But you
uh,
enjoyed yourself, bud.
yeah, I enjoyed it, man. It's always good talking to you, man.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, listen, stay in touch. We're going to clip this up and put it out there. I will not put anything controversial out, so do not worry, all right? It's just giving an opinion of what went down and more than anything, the excitement that we've got for the rest of the season. The next race in
Yeah,
Qatar,
sure.
of course, only 6 days away. Just before we leave, Damian, I think you're allowed to do this one. Give us your predictions for the podium for Qatar. How do you think it's going to
Oh,
go?
man. I think it might go Max Verstappen, Piastri, and then Lando.
Is that for both the sprint and the Grand Prix, or could it change?
Ah, it could change, but that's for the Grand Prix. I
Okay.
didn't even think about the sprint. Who knows for the sprint?
Well, you put Max down earlier as your favourite. So we'll say a double win for Max, but it's all going to go down to the last race in Abu Dhabi because I'm going to be there and I want some great stuff to talk about, some fantastic storylines. Damian, listen, it's been a real pleasure to catch up with you, buddy. Gaz, Ewan, Eddie, if you aren't already, give him a follow across the socials. His content's great and it gives you a behind the scenes and a real look. Life in the pit lane, not just in F1, but he does stuff in MotoGP as well. And he is in and amongst it. As he dropped earlier, the odd conversation with Sir Lewis Hamilton happens as well. So you can follow him there at The Real Copper Piston. Damian, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a great evening and you guys out there as well. Gaz just giving his predictions that he thinks it's going to be a Max George Lando Grand Prix. Thank you so much for joining us, Gaz, Ewan, Eddie, and the rest of you guys. Give us a like and a share, plus the stuff that we share across the socials in the week as well. And we'll see you all in fact, I'm doing next week's one on a Sunday because I fly to Abu Dhabi on the Monday, so it won't be Monday night. So literally a couple of hours after the end of the race, I'll be doing a fans forum. So hopefully you regulars can still make it. If not, I'll be beaming live from Abu Dhabi, so you can catch up with me then. Have a great evening, everybody, and take care.